Well, let's move on to a CNBC TV18 exclusive. Shireen Bhan caught up with Brian Moynihan, global CEO of Bank of America, and began by asking about the fears of a possibility of a trade recession and whether the worrying economic data is a concern for the markets. Hear him out.
Well, I think there's two elements to it. One is what's going on with the growth rate, and our prediction in China is 6.2% for 19 and GDP growth. So, you know, it's consistent with what it's been in the past. But I think as a government in the policies to fix the credit issues and the overborrowing and things like that, you know, that has a slowing down effect on the economy. And I think they're willing to make that trade-off to get the economy more and more structurally sound. And that's what's been going on. When you think about the trade question, you know, the administration in the U.S. has been clear. We want a reciprocal. We want open access to markets, intellectual property, and things like that. It sounds like they're getting close to the deal. I have no special insight. That would be good for the world because you can't have the two biggest economies in the world sort of, you know, at loggerheads with each other. You need to get by that period, and that will calm the world down because the amount of dependence on both import and export from China, U.S., and the investment coming from both countries would be better settled if it settles down, and hopefully that'll happen in the next few weeks is what they keep telling us.
That is what they keep telling us, and the hope is that it will happen. But, you know, since we're talking about trade, and I want to get your comments on what we're seeing happen between India and the U.S. I mean, nowhere in comparison to what we're seeing happen with U.S. and China. But, you know, President Trump keeps bringing back the tariff issue, even in the context of India. The U.S. has just withdrawn the GSP benefits, and India's position has been absolutely clear that, look, we're open for business, don't link the GSP benefits to what is happening with market access, and that's not a fair thing to do. What do you make of this sort of blow-hot, blow-cold relationship that India and the U.S. seem to enjoy currently, especially when it comes to trade?
I think the two countries have a great relationship, and they've worked together for years, and I think I'm from a big family, and sometimes, you know, the brothers and sisters get in a little bit of a dispute with each other. But
sibling rivalry, is it?
I think it's really, you got to come back to reciprocity. The words have changed over time, but reciprocity, in other words, fair access, open access, and there's a pretty good open access in India, and the current administration's even opened up more in terms of ownership of insurance companies going up higher and things. But that idea of being able to do business on equivalent terms for these large economies is important, and that is really, if you listen to the
is it a perception issue when it comes to India? Because as you pointed out, I mean, you know, I don't know a single sector where foreign ownership is not allowed, even to the tune of 100%, even in very sensitive areas. So is there a perception issue that India is denying market access?
I don't.
Or that the tariffs are discriminatory?
I think whenever you have tariffs, that feels protectionist. That feels like it's not open. And so I think it's, whether it's perception or reality, is the end of the day, I think what the administration has used is the trade imbalances and the tariffs as ways to get people's attention on open access. And I think these two countries can figure this out relatively quickly. China's a little more complex because the size of the movement's higher and the different things that move. Here, I think, you know, I think if the Indian government continues to provide open access and stuff, I'm sure things will work through. These two countries have a strategic relationship among all dimensions that's very important, including the Obama administration, the prior administration coming and visiting here, and the amount of work that goes on. So I wouldn't be too worried about the relationship between these two countries.
What interests foreign investors today about the India story? I mean, you know, there's the whole infrastructure piece, which traditionally has been a difficult area to play out in India. There's the whole services economy, there's the manufacturing side of the story. When you talk to investors, what are they most bullish about? What are they most convinced about? And where do they intend to continue to put their money?
Well, if you think, there's a couple ways to think about it. As a domestic economy, you know, 1 billion plus people, you know, spending and consuming more. There's tremendous view that can go on, and you're seeing companies invest in the retail segments and expand in retail segments. If you think about the power segment, you know, we've done solar power financing here, major installations, and the ability to bring the power on, especially on a green basis, a new power basis across this country. Take the medical side. You think about the amount of medical care. The government's building more hospitals, the amount of work that goes behind it, the amount of machines that go behind it, and things like that. And so all those are there. And then you think about the other way. We have 20,000 teammates that work in this country today and have worked here for us for 20 years in this country or more, that provide great services to our worldwide platform, technology development, operations and processing. So you have a tremendously, if you think about the other way, you have a tremendously talented group of people who have a tremendous ability to retool. We've been able to get, they talk about reskilling around the world. We've been able to take programming, which was of one stage, and move it to the more modern types of codes, programming and stuff, by retraining people over 6 months in our groups, by taking them offline and retraining. That kind of enthusiasm to just learn and drive is tremendous. So you have a tremendous talent base, schools expanding and all of that, with a tremendous domestic economy.